Campbell, Cujo, Jenny, Oates, Brown, Chase, Fuhr, Zombo, Cecil, Butcher, Shanny, Tilly, Tuttle, Sutter, Twister, Turcotte, Kimball, Turgeon, Barron, Basson, Pronger, Pearson, Bergevin, Bozon, Al McInnes, Crab, Chuck, Howard, Chuck, Petrovicki, Pellerin, Dimitra, Yate, Corson, Conrad, Gretzky. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup near 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues.
Get on your feet. Here's your starting lineup for Toasted STL. Tom Franklin, the man called Wags, and Blues Fan Reacts.
Surprise! Doug Armstrong does it again. Hello and welcome to Toasted Blues. I am one half of your co-hosting team, Tom Franklin, joined by my buddy Mason, Blues Fan Reacts. And Mason, 8 years, $6.5 million per bargain, right?
Where did this come from?
Nowhere. It literally came from nowhere. Probably literally from the middle of a Nevada desert. I would have expected a signing like this in December, maybe January. Sort of a good halfway point towards the season, as long as we find. Nope, we're getting it in September. This is what happens, folks. We're less than a month away from Blues hockey, and here we're just going to sign it right now. All right, welcome, but very strange timing. August, September, when all the hot hockey news comes out, right?
Of course, of course.
Absolutely. So this is our second episode in about 3 days, and we definitely weren't expecting to do an episode so quickly. It felt like it was forever since our 2 episodes, going from 2 episodes ago to Sunday's episode with Audie James, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out, please do. It's on our YouTube page, as well as Anchor FM, if you're listening on there as well. Had a interesting trade proposal we discussed on Sunday, where the Blues would end up with Matthew Tkachuk, and the Flames would end up with Jack Eichel, and everyone would be happy. But, of course, it's the NHL, so it probably will not happen. Fun to talk about, though. Let's talk about things that actually do happen here. And this is not going to be, our usual formatted episode here. This is kind of a breaking news episode here. Colton Parayko gets an 8-year, $52 million deal by the St. Louis Blues for $6.5 million per season, just out of nowhere. There was no rumblings about this at all. Guy, who's been attending practices this week, he obviously didn't hear anything about it. This was a total surprise, Mason. But I think personally, if Parayko's back were healthy, and of course he's been dealing with a back issue for the past couple of seasons, that's a big reason why his play has kind of dipped a little bit. Mm-hmm. But you don't sign a player to an 8-year, $52 million contract. And of course, he's also the assistant captain too, by the way. So he plays a big role on the team still. You don't sign a player to that kind of deal unless you're pretty damn sure his back has been healthy. And I know Guy's been at practice, and I've heard some other rumblings that Parayko looks pretty good this summer. So I think this is a slick move by Doug Armstrong. It's a risk. It's a calculated risk because backs can be funny, as you well know. You deal with a back injury yourself.
Got a fat pillow behind me right now.
And this is it's a calculated risk, but you know what? I like this move. $6.5 million. Think about some of the contracts that teams have been giving out this offseason. Seth Jones, Chicago.
Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, terrible. $9.5 million for Seth Jones. You have $9 million for Dougie Hamilton. Darnell Nurse, $8.5 million.
Darnell Nurse got 9.25.
Oh, he was 9.25. Okay, I was cutting him short there.
You were cutting him short. You wouldn't think it.
And sadly, of those 3 players, only Dougie, I feel, might actually not make that contract hurt after a while. That's neither here nor there.
Definitely.
Parayko, $6.5 million per. Mason, I love this deal, and I think you do too.
This is wonderful. I absolutely love this. I mean, I like you said, I'm thinking about all the. This was one of my main like apprehensions going into the the next year, because obviously it's either Parayko's getting traded or we're gonna overpay for him way too much. And that was one of those things at the back of my mind. It's like, oh no, we're screwed. $6.5 million over 8 years. 8 years. Keep in mind, it is 8 years. And it doesn't take effect until the year after this one. So we're going to have him for a while when he turns, 36 or 37?
37.
Is when that contract, 37 when that contract expires. So not wonderful. But you know what? It's Colton Parayko. He's a heart and soul guy to this team. He loves it here in St. Louis. Obviously, I'm 90% sure he took a hometown discount to stay for this long. 90% sure that was the case. But it's just how this news broke. I mean, it was just there was no rumblings from Andy Strickland. There was crickets from JR. There was absolutely nothing. There was even nothing from our correspondent Guy Bensing. That he didn't even know. And he knows everything. So I mean, where did this come from? And I think it just is a matter of as I thought. Me and Tom were just talking before the show. We were like, where could this have possibly came from? The beginning of September. That's a weird time. But then I realized this is when players are doing their physicals before training camp. This is when team doctors are evaluating them.
Yeah.
So this can either mean one or two things. One, Doug Armstrong saw the results and he liked it. Or two, Doug Armstrong saw the results and he didn't like it very much, explaining the 6.5. So either this is a really good move or a really bad move. But knowing Doug Armstrong, he's not one to sign giant risky contracts like this. So I truly, truly think that this is a good thing from Colton Parayko. I think that we all found out that his back is doing better. He's obviously been putting in a lot of work this offseason, according to multiple inside sources. He's been doing fine. He's been healing. I thought Parayko looked great in the playoffs, so I think that's a sign of things to come. And I truly believe that this contract is going to be worth it. Maybe not in the back half, but it's certainly going to be way worth it in the front half.
Well, I'll pump the brakes a little bit on Armstrong and signing big deals because, as my sign says behind me here, the $6.5 million club includes now Colton Parayko, Torrey Krug, Justin Falk, and Braden Shen. All four of those players make $6.5 million per, and but at the same time, though, these aren't astronomical Seth Jones, Artemi Panarin type of deals. I got the cap friendly pulled up for the St. Louis Blues on the video version of this podcast. The highest paid players remain Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko at $7.5 million per each. That's your cap right now on, salaries. And, most teams, like we talk about the Blackhawks a lot, they have multiple players that make at least 10 mil or more. The Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean, they're literally, getting hamstrung every single year by four players that make close to 10 mil or more. So, you're right. It's not Doug Armstrong's MO to sign someone to a mega deal like that, but rather he prefers clearly, if you're looking at the cap friendly, to spread the wealth out a little bit. No superstars, but a lot of very good players. The other thing that I like as I'm looking at this cap friendly here is you mentioned Parayko was a pending unrestricted free agent. He had one more year left on his deal. That was going to be a big question mark going into this season. That question mark is now got a big period at the end of it.
Oh yeah.
It's not a question mark anymore. It's a big fat period. And look at the roster here. So you have basically the only real question mark I feel the Blues have in terms of an impact player that might, only have 1 year left is David Perron. David Perron, 1 year left at $4 million per. Of course, he still got to re-sign Robert Thomas, which it's going to be happen. That'll happen. I think. I think
it'll happen. It's just it's getting to that point where it starts to become worrying. Where you start thinking, is this going to turn into a William Nylander type situation? And I really hope it doesn't.
Well, remember before the season last year, we were kind of scratching our heads over Vince Dunn and his restricted free agent contract. He eventually did sign, but I guess he got kind of butthurt over, how that kind of worked out and whether that affected his play on the ice and maybe precipitated his move out of St. Louis. That's,
I think possibly, honestly.
I think it's quite possible if you read the limited tea leaves that we have here. So You obviously, I think Robert Thomas is much more valuable to this organization than Vince Dunn is. So you don't want to go down that road with Vince Dunn. But that being said, you do only have $1.5 million in cap space right now. So far, the Blues have not used any LTIR space, which is, kind of interesting compared to the rest of the league. A lot of the rest of the league right now are basically counting on dipping into LTIR at this point just to stay solvent. I mean, this COVID cap really is really crimping a lot of styles here. But I mean, besides Robert Thomas, which he'll get re-signed, Robert Bortuzzo is going to be an unrestricted free agent. I don't know if he comes back after this season.
I think he takes a deal to stay.
Or maybe a cheap deal, but he accepts his role as like he's basically a 6th, 7th defenseman at this point.
Yeah, I think he gets a 2-year, $1 million.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking that Bortuzzo is getting. But the other thing that I find really funny, now that you're pulling up, like saying Doug Armstrong doesn't do mega deals. If you keep in mind, Tarasenko's current contract is still the biggest contract in franchise history. We've never signed a player to that magnitude before. And it's about to end. The Blues have never paid a player over $7.5 million.
Yeah, and keep in mind the Blues did, acquire O'Reilly's contract, but that was already a couple years.
Yeah, so we didn't sign that one.
That wasn't, while he was a Blues. So, which by the way, I said it Sunday and I'll say it again. I'm still surprised we're reaching the end of the O'Reilly contract because when the Blues traded for him, it felt like he had an eternity left on that thing, but only 2 years. But then after that, you have Nico Mikkola and Jake Wallman, who will be arbitration eligible. But I don't see them getting like giant leaps. Of course, one of them could become a superstar this season, and maybe render that moot.
Who do you think gets paid more? Who do you think gets more, Mikkola or Wallman?
I think
I'm thinking Wallman.
I think in Wallman as well. I think the organization likes Wallman more. Not that they don't like Mikkola, but it seemed like that as the season went on, they started to get a lot of trust in him. And keep in mind, Wallman's a guy that's been in the organization for quite a while. And I think they've invested a lot of time and patience with him. So they're going to give him chances, but he looked good as the season, last season went on, and he got more confidence in his game. And dude's a good skater. He's a good skater. He's got a nice heavy shot. I mean, he could be another Vince Dunn. I don't see why he can't, put up Vince Dunn numbers.
Right.
A lot of it depends on.
I see him being kind of a mini me Torrey Krug almost.
That too. No, another similar type of player, which again, the Blues have plenty of those type of players, even with Dunn gone. I mean, because you mentioned Krug, Wallman, Scotty Perunovich is, kind of in that same mold as well. So yeah, it's now you go into a season here where you don't have to worry about keeping, Parayko. He's kept, he's done. You do have the lingering question of David Perron. He's going to be 34 whenever he signs his new contract. You got to question how much longer he has left. So, but I'm pretty sure that Perron, I think Perron's also kind of in the same boat as Parayko in that I think Perron legitimately loves St. Louis. I mean, you don't get jettisoned from a team twice and come back to it if you absolutely hate the city.
Right, of course.
The team. I mean, come on.
Yes.
We told him to go away twice, and he came back twice. So
I know he's like the little annoying kid at daycare. He just won't stop holding onto your leg. So I think David Perron is going to retire a Blue. I think he pretty much has to at this point.
I think he will, and I think he gets a little bit of a pay hike over $4 million, but not much. I mean, I don't see him getting more than what Schwartz.
No, I think he gets about 4. I think he gets 4.
You think? Well, we got a whole season here, so we'll see what transpires over that time.
For sure.
But, back to Parayko. So we talked a little bit about his back, and there's some skeptics about this deal, and rightfully so. Jay Fresh, our friend who came on a Blue Notes episode a few months ago, back when we were called Blue Notes, notes that Parayko is a second pair defensive defenseman whose elite early career results have slipped pretty significantly the past 2 seasons, and you can kind of see the player card here that reflects that. A nice steady drop in wins above replacement from 18-19 to now, basically.
Mhm.
It also suggests that his offensive game has picked up a little bit, but his defensive game has slid a little bit. But he does say that, noting that he notes that it does seem to be related to his back injuries, which he hopes that he can rebound from.
I think he can.
I think he can. I think he will. But he also makes up an interesting point too, that there's people that think that, and I haven't heard too much of this, but some people say that Parayko has not been as good because he hasn't been playing with Bouwmeester anymore.
No, I don't see that.
Jay Fresh doesn't see it either. I mean, look, J-Bo, it's funny how people view players after they've retired. I mean, because I remember when J-Bo was active and healthy, I mean, people were still kind of ready to push him out the door, or out the pasture, if you will. I mean, I think he redeemed himself a little bit towards the in his final season with fans, but yeah, Mason, J-Bo is not the first Blues player that has suddenly gained sainthood after retiring and being kind of the object of people's ire for a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, I kind of think I could obviously can't speak for all Blues fans, but I think just from looking at it, I think most people had a respect for Bouwmeester, even when he was with the team. Yeah, he was getting up there in age, and he wasn't obviously the wonderful Jay Bouwmeester that we had him in 2014, 15, 16. He wasn't the same caliber, but at the same time, he was a freaking workhorse and one of the leaders in the locker room. So I mean, I'm just trying to think of what the justification of he's not playing with Bouwmeester. That doesn't make any sense. Parayko's been the main guy for pretty much all of the pairings that he's been on. The Parayko Krug pairing was wonderful last year. I think he had more chemistry with Krug than with Bouwmeester. So I'm really not sure where that's coming from.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, Bouwmeester, as we've kind of learned after he's retired, he was a great locker room guy. I think we all knew that he was a consummate professional during his time as a Blue. But we also kind of knew that, as like his time with St. Louis was kind of different from his time with Calgary and Florida. He was kind of a different player when he came to St. Louis. He became a more defensive-minded defenseman, with the St. Louis Blues. Like when he came to St. Louis, he kind of had a reputation for being, a puck-moving, offensive-minded defenseman that, that he had earned with Calgary and Florida. But as he got older, he changed his game a little bit. And I think there's still some people that think that, we didn't get the, Jay Bouwmeester was advertised. Well, no, but, that's because he got older.
Not.
It's because he got older and he changed his game up to adapt to his age. And, when you get older, your skills tend to diminish a little bit.
I thought he did a damn good job too.
But I thought he was fine. Yeah, exactly. I thought he was fine. I think he may have been, when he was still making over $5 million, I think there was a year or two where I thought he was overpaid, and I think everyone in St. Louis kind of agreed with that. But then he took a team friendly deal. He was making $3.5 million. In the final years of his career. And he was, as we learned with Alex Steen, I mean, veteran presence like Jay Bouwmeester was invaluable. Yeah. No, Bouwmeester was fine. Bouwmeester was absolutely fine. But yeah, according to the analytics here from Jay Fresh, he does express some concern that this contract will age poorly because, as he knows,
understandable.
And that's quite possible. I mean, these numbers are used in the with a lot of different data points from other players, just in the recent past that have aged, and that kind of factors into that. But again, Parayko's coming off of 2 years of having an absolutely bum back. He played 32 games rather this past season. Not 32 years. That's a long ass.
32 years. That's quite the contract there. We're approaching Yager territory right now.
I was going to say Gordie Howe, but that works. That works too.
Yager's still freaking playing.
Yeah,
he's going to keep playing
for Kladno and the team that he owns in the Czech Republic. Yeah. He's an absolute legend. He is an absolute legend, Jaromir. I still wish he was a Blue. That 1 year when the Blues were looking at him, even though he was
just 1 year. Just 1 year.
I wanted to buy a Yager jersey so bad. I had one custom made and sitting in the cart on NHLshop.com. And
just waiting.
This was before I collected hockey jerseys. This would have been like, oh my, this is an investment. This is something that I never do. But you know what? It's Jaromir Jagr. So
of course.
But no, he didn't. He did not sign. So
too bad.
But the key here is, I say those 32 games. I mean, I felt Parayko as the season went on, toward the end of the year, he started looking a little bit more like his old self. But that's when you're coming off an injury like that, you need time.
Yes.
You need time, and I mean, because he's also shaking off rink rust as well. But I remember before when Pietrangelo walked, Doug Armstrong came out and said, "All right, Colton Parayko is going to be the alpha of this defense." And now he's getting a contract that says, all right, you're the alpha on defense. How do you think
term-wise it's saying that?
Yeah. Now we know Parayko is a classy guy. He's a super friendly guy. Berube gave him the okay to date his daughter if he wanted to, because he's so freaking nice. How do you think a guy like Parayko is going to react now that he has this big contract in the fold and this expectation that, okay, it's your defense now, run with it?
I think he's just going to be the same old Parayko, personality-wise and play-wise. I think he's going to give it his all 110% on the ice, because even on those times where, he wasn't looking wonderful, where he was looking like almost a borderline liability at points last year, he still, I mean, you could tell that he was trying, he was working, there was never a shred of doubt in my mind. That's why I wasn't too hard on him with that, even though he was the worst defenseman probably that we had at the beginning of last year. I didn't give him too much flack, just because, I mean, it's a back injury. What can you do about it? I sympathize very, very heavily. I sympathize, a back injury, especially for a tall person, you cannot take that lightly, so hopefully he comes back to his regular self. Hopefully this is a sign that Berube Armstrong trusts him, and trusts that his back is healing, that he's going to do everything that he can do to be that, like you said, alpha on defense. So it's just a matter of seeing where exactly we want to fit him in, if we want to keep him with the great chemistry he had with Krug, or if we want to try something else, maybe him and Mikkola later in the season. I thought that pairing was okay. We tried it a little bit last year. I thought they were fine. Maybe if Wallman starts finding a regular spot in the lineup, maybe putting it with him, seeing if we can, grab a little bit of, mentorship like he had with Bouwmeester. So I mean, it's just a matter of finding out where he fits. But then also, where he's going to end up in the later stages of that contract. He's a very, he seems like a very humble guy. I haven't, talked to a lot of people who've talked to him. He sounds like an incredibly humble person. He sounds like he's, just a great guy, a person that I would want to play with, a teammate that I would want to be a teammate with.
I've been in a couple locker room scrums with Parayko, with reporters after games before we went to this whole Zoom system because of COVID, and some players give off the different vibes. I mean, just like for instance, Perron, he's kind of a prankster, he's kind of a jokester, he's very glib, he's very good with the media. Pietrangelo kind of sometimes took the media as a bit of a chore. I felt like there were definitely some games,
of course,
where I would me and other reporters were asking him questions and he would rather be somewhere else, which is that's fine. But I
know if I was an NHL player, I'd be a lot like Pietrangelo in that regard. I'd be like, I'm just playing a game, buddy.
yeah, and you know what? He never complained. It's just that you could just tell. Parayko has always been like super approachable. Like he is just he gives off like no menacing vibe at all, which is interesting because he's 6'5" and he's a freaking bear. 6'6", but who's counting? Just 3 inches taller than you, by the way.
2 inches taller than me.
Yeah. Well, you're 6'4".
I'm 6'4".
You're 6'4". Okay, so there we go. Tall, blonde men who have bad backs. This is the kind of analysis that you can't get anywhere else here.
I think I need a Parayko jersey now, honestly, after this. I mean, I think me and him are the same person.
If the shoe fits, I mean, absolutely. But no, Parayko is an absolute gentleman. He's one of the one of those players that you can walk up to and you don't feel overawed by his presence. He's very approachable. I mean, there's a reason Layla loves Colton Parayko as much.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Him and Alex Steen both. I mean, Steen wasn't never Steen was a little cold with the media. It wasn't intentional. He just didn't enjoy it. I don't think it wasn't anything like bad or anything. But he also was a gentleman, and
did he sort of warm up later in his career? He sort of warmed up to him
a little bit, but it's funny. I don't ever recall being in a scrum with Alex Steen. Like he, like the way those usually work, like you think of back in the day, think of Jerry Maguire. A bunch of reporters in a locker room, players in towels or no towels, or just buck naked, and they're getting questions lobbed at them. In the NHL, it's a little different. So the way it kind of works in the NHL is you're up in the press row, you're making notes, doing everything you're doing during a game. When you're done, we all cram into an elevator. Which thankfully the St. Louis we use freight elevators, so there's a bit of room. When I went to when I went to a Washington Capitals game, it was there was 20 of us smashed into a standard sized elevator. That was hilarious. I never got to know Jim Thomas as well as I did that day. But I got to smell his cologne. But
very intimate. You're at third base.
Well, basically. But yeah, at Blues games, freight elevator, plenty of room. We all cram in there. We all make our way first to the locker room area, there's actually they've got a dual locker room setup where the locker room that you see in post game scrums, the players are usually in the other locker room, basically either showering or doing whatever the hell they do in there. But then when we get into this locker room, they'll have the numbers of 2 or 3 players that they are going to send out to talk to the media. Usually Pietrangelo was up there a lot just because he was a captain, and when the team lost, he was kind of the default guy to send out there.
Right.
But if there was a player that made a big play or a youngster that scored his first goal, they might put him out. They might throw him out to the media afterwards. But you don't get to choose who you talk to. The team chooses for you who you get to talk to. So that's kind of how that works. And then we all go into the press conference room where Craig Berube is. So that's kind of how that works. But yeah, Parayko was always very accessible, very friendly, and nice. Captain material, in my opinion. I mean, when you think of a captain, I could definitely see him wearing the C down the road.
I could too.
I can, he's the way he carries himself is tremendous. So, he's an asset in that regard. He's only 28 years old too. Yeah. I mean, let's not forget that, he's still in his late 20s, and, he's still got some tread on the tires, assuming his back is okay. So, bottom line, I'm good with the deal. I'm good with the fact that it eliminates a big question going into this season. Also, it has probably no effect on where Tarasenko goes, whether he can mend the bridge. I don't think he can mend the bridge. I think that's done, despite the pleasantries that he was showing Guy during the practice yesterday, and that nice smile of his, which that tweet kind of went crazy, didn't it?
That went nuts.
Yeah, turns out people like seeing happy Vladimir Tarasenko when there's dark clouds surrounding him lately. So, which, by the way, it wasn't I didn't write that to suggest that, everything's fake news media. He's actually happy to be a Blue. I didn't suggest that. I just suggested that if he does have to play with the Blues through training camp,
I don't think he'll despise it.
Couple regular season games, it's not going to be the doom and gloom that everyone thinks it's going to be. Tarasenko's a professional. These players are professional.
Yeah. And
you know what? It did legit look. I'm looking at Guy's video of him playing. I mean, it did look like he legit enjoyed, being on the ice again. We all know that Tarasenko is a competitive guy, and he's someone that always has a chip on his shoulder, a little bit. I think the best players often have that chip, just to, constantly feeling the need they need to prove themselves. Tarasenko's got a big one because he's got to prove to the rest of the league that he's healthy in his, future home. So I don't think I will say with that, I don't feel as nervous if Tarasenko is a Blue on opening night. I don't feel that nervous. He'll play. He's not going to cause an issue. He's going to be professional, and he's going to audition for other teams. We may get peak Tarasenko for a little while because he is going to want to prove to other teams that the juice is worth the squeeze, and it's worth trading assets to acquire him once again, which I think will happen. I don't know where. I think the Islanders might be out now because their cap space pretty much ate up. Now that they
screw you, Lou.
I know another guy who plays his cards close to the vest. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Doug Armstrong had like a shrine to Lou Lamoriello in his home.
He probably does.
Home, because they're very similar in how they operate. So anyway, that's our thoughts on the Colton Parayko signing. What do you guys think? Drop a comment below and let us know what you think about it. And again, this is Toasted Blues. We'll be back whenever there is more breaking news. Maybe Robert Thomas gets a big contract. Maybe Tarasenko gets traded, or maybe Doug Armstrong does something completely random, like he did with Justin Falk. You just never know with Doug Armstrong. So we can't tell you when we'll be back. So any final thoughts?
Watch Robert Thomas get signed in 2 hours from now. Watch him finally get his ELC right now.
We will click on end broadcast and learn that the Montreal Canadiens have offer sheeted Robert Thomas.
Oh boy!
Talk about nerves.
Yeah,
I
don't like that.
Yeah, Tarasenko is probably going to have to be a Buffalo Sabre, and that'll be, we'll get like a bag of hockey pucks for him.
Of course. Yep.
But got to keep Thomas. So,
yep, that sounds about right.
Any final thoughts, Mason?
Not really. Just gonna. Well, right after this, I gotta upload my video.
Yep.
And then record a Parayko video, and then probably upload that today. So that'll be a joy. A joy. Submit your questions. Go to my Twitter, Blues Fan Reacts, and submit your questions.
And of course,
I'll answer all of them. So
literally, he will answer every single one. I mean, he puts a lot of time and effort into the Q&A section of his videos. If you haven't checked it out, so ask him some questions. Don't ask me questions. Don't ask us questions. Ask him all the questions.
I'll take all your questions.
He will take them and like it.
I'm a thief. I'm a thief in the night.
Well, this isn't the only Toasted show we have going on today as well. If you're watching live in less than 2 hours, the Toasted Tavern will be back open tonight. Wags and Scott will begin to look into the world of the NFL and have a season preview for us. Part 1 of their 4-parter is starting tonight at 9 o'clock Central Time, so check that out. They'll probably also talk about the Cardinals game, actually both Cardinals games today, which, by the way, it is now 9-1 Cincinnati, and it is it is the top of the third. So
why is this the year I decided to watch Cardinals baseball? I half blame you guys for this.
Stop watching so they can win.
I half blame you, Wags and Scott, for saying you should get into Cardinals baseball. I half blame you, but the other half I blame myself.
Hey,
I cannot believe you're putting me through this.
Look, the Diamondbacks need every fan they can get right now. Maybe consider being a Diamondbacks fan.
I would never.
Okay.
I would never. I mean, they're basically Mariners 2.0. I don't know if I want that. I mean, I thought I was miserable being a Mariners fan. Holy crap, you live like this? I'm like walking into a girl's house that I meet on Tinder and the whole place is trash. I'm like, damn, bitch, you live like this?
I'm pretty sure that half of the current Diamondbacks roster was on the Bishop Sycamore baseball team last year.
What a story. Please tell me you're talking about that on Toasted. Please tell me they are.
I'm going to leave that to Scott and Wags to talk
That's
about.
That's so funny.
Talk tonight, the Bishop Sycamore saga. We'll make sure that they talk about that tonight on the Tavern at 9 o'clock. If you're watching us right now, just stay connected to these accounts. We'll have the links for you at 9 o'clock tonight. But in the meantime, I'm Tom Franklin. He is Blues Fan Reacts. Watch his video later on tonight. And remember, always play to that damn whistle.
For new episodes, merchandise, and behind-the-scenes content, be sure to visit ToastedSTL.com or follow us on Twitter at Toasted St. Louis. I'm the voice of the blues, Tom Calhoun. Let's get toasted!
Guess who's back? Back
Back
again.
again.
Parayko's back.